of Adrian's deal breakers is someone who doesn't have a job.
Yeah, someone doesn't have a job.
I don't have a job.
You don't have a job?
Welcome back to Liminal Period. It's your girl, Chun-Li Shoddy. Yesterday, I shared a video talking about age gap relationships, and it sparked up because of a conversation on the Whatever podcast talking about dating preferences and some red flags. In that video, the girl with the tattoo on her arms, she was saying that it is a red flag of hers if a man in his 30s is interested in dating 18-year-olds. And Andrew and Brian was talking about how it is a red flag for women to be a flight attendant. And I wanted to talk about career and profession because I think it's often brought up when we're talking about modern day dating and the dating culture and the gender war. And I also have a couple of more clips that's going to unpack that conversation around career, profession, and whether or not men even find that attractive. So let's get into it.
Specifically, when we're just talking about the idea of why would it be a red flag to date a flight attendant? It might be the same reason it would be maybe a red flag to date a traveling salesman.
Sure.
Because it just increases the opportunity for the amount of X people you could meet, so it increases the potential that would
Sure,
happen.
but everybody has red flags.
Yeah, but it's like a tier, right? So there's going to be some red flags that are worse than others.
But like, is flight
Levels
attendant
to it.
really that big of a deal? Like, is that red flag of a career?
Yeah, I think from a man's standpoint, yeah, that
Really?
if you have women who are traveling often away from the man or the family unit or things like that, that would be a big problem.
But like, I'm home every night.
Well,
now you are.
You are now. Yeah.
So
But if you weren't,
then that would be different.
yeah, that would be different.
Oh, okay.
Right. And this was a thing too. Like, when did you start going back every single night? Just maybe
Well,
last
like
year.
recently. Yeah, I mean, now that I'm like, not in my 20s anymore. Like,
Sure.
I'm ready to be an adult.
Yeah,
grow
sure.
up. Yeah.
So there's people who do long haul trucking, same thing. They're home every night.
Yeah.
Right. They do the same route every day. They're home every night.
Yeah.
I think but what's the point of that, right? It also mitigates opportunity.
And you said something though, well, wouldn't the value due to me being a flight attendant offset these concerns about me not being as available to spend time with a partner, or perhaps risks of infidelity or past promiscuity? Could you just clarify what you mean by this value? I'm a little confused.
I mean, I feel like if we're doing a risk assessment, it's like, isn't there always like a pro versus a con? That's kind of what I was thinking that
Yeah, I
you
think
were
so.
talking about. So I was like, well, if there's a risk, you kind of have to weigh it against a reward. So I was saying, like, but
Yeah, so
the reward
what's
would be.
the reward?
I mean, I thought I already explained all that.
Well, so okay,
All the perks and benefits.
yeah,
the health insurance for spouse and child,
yeah,
and then
Flights.
travel,
flights.
and then I mean, I could stay.
And then health insurance.
Yeah, and I could stay home and be like a full-time parent while still having a job.
I'm not sure if free flights and health insurance juxtaposed to promiscuous past, chance of promiscuous past, higher risk of infidelity. I don't think those are going to outweigh the, and also men.
I want to chime in real quick because, again, like he said it there, promiscuity or chance of promiscuous past. And I'm very curious because, again, I'm not a man, so I don't have the assumption that all flight attendants are whores. I understand that being a flight attendant, yes, you are traveling a lot more, so, it opens up your possibilities and your options up, okay, because you have access to more people. So I understand that. But just being very honest, like the one that is a flight attendant, out of that lineup right there, out of the three, is the one in the middle with the black cardigan on. Okay? Like, I'm not saying that she isn't sleeping around. Like, I don't know what she shared prior in the conversation, but just because she can be a whore doesn't mean that she is, okay? Because he mentioned the same risk being a travel salesman or being a long-haul trucker. Okay, so yes, those men also have more access to more women. They're on the roads more often. The risk goes up. So that is understood, but at the same time, just because a man can cheat doesn't mean that he will cheat. I don't know.
Typically don't really prioritize a female's career.
Well, I guess we wouldn't be a match, Brian.
I'm not trying to date you. I'm just speaking in generalities.
Do you speak for all men?
Yeah, most men, I'd say, don't really prioritize in terms of what they find attractive.
You wouldn't prioritize a woman's career if she paid your entire health care so you wouldn't have to go on your own.
Well, I can get into that, but so yes,
I just want to remind you guys that this is really the center of today's conversation. I feel like a lot of times on the Whatever podcast or on Fresh and Fit, they devalue a woman's career to an extent of too far extreme, in my opinion. Because again, I completely understand that most men are not seeking women out based on their profession and their career. Most men are not using a woman's career and her profession as the decision-making factor. Like, I completely understand that. But to completely strip it away and say that men just do not care, I think it lacks nuance. And I think it's really important. And I don't understand how the Whatever podcast goes on stream for 8 hours at a time, 2 to 3 times a week. You have such long conversations, but somehow are unable to talk about the nuances. But anyways, before I jump the gun, let's just get back to what Brian has to say about careers and men not giving two shits about it.
I would generalize, generally speaking, men, in terms of you making yourself more attractive to men, your career is not really going to be a major factor in terms of his...
Traveling the world for free isn't a factor?
Not really.
No, not really.
No, that doesn't sound fun to you? Then we definitely would not be a match.
I think it's about just being home.
I'm speaking...
No, but like if you want to travel with your partner, like wouldn't that be something you would want to do? Like,
Sure.
Yeah, traveling's nice, but
You don't have to be a flight attendant to travel.
But
to travel for free, like you would get to go more places.
So when you're talking about
Not worth choosing a woman for, but that is a perk.
So I agree with one point, and then I'm going to kind of disagree with a different one.
Sure.
So the point I'll find common ground with you on is, yeah, I think that everything's a give and trade in a relationship. Mm-hmm. So I think you're right.
Yeah.
That you could look at it and say, there's a lot of perks, right, which outweigh these non-beneficial things, right? Mm-hmm. But I would also argue that kind of the biggest thing that nobody wants in a relationship is infidelity. That is the big one, right? More than any other type. Mm-hmm. So if you're weighing anything against that, that's almost always going to win, right?
Sure.
So then if the thing that you're doing increases the risk of this big thing, which is the infidelity, then you can understand why men would see that as something to stay clear of.
Sure. I think that's kind of like a worst case scenario. So, I mean, for me, it would just be then if that's something that's important to them and they're not willing to give me a shot, then they're not my type of person.
Yeah, that's fair.
If most men should steer clear of flight attendants, then let's hypothetically say women take note, they don't become flight attendants. Who exactly do we want to become flight attendants? Who exactly could be flight attendants? Is it going to be middle-aged women? Because I feel like most women that are middle-aged are probably prioritizing spending time with their family and at home. Are we looking for young men to be flight attendants? I wouldn't mind that, because maybe then they would actually help me put my bags over the baggage area, but who exactly should fill in these roles? And same thing, if men that are on the road all the time, like truckers and travel salesmen, should women just go into the situation understanding or expecting that man to cheat on her? And should women just avoid those men in general? Like, I feel like, again, like these blanket statements that they make, sometimes I think it just gives off the wrong impression to the younger generation who might not have had the experience yet.
Yeah.
Well, how would you feel if, like, the woman's unemployed altogether? Like, is that bad too?
No, men don't give a shit.
All right. Fair enough.
They don't usually care if women are unemployed. It's not a
Some
big deal
men
to them
care.
usually.
I really don't know if that's how all men feel.
I'm not going to put anything in a monolith and say all. But
Well, when you sit here and say men don't give a shit.
Well, so when I say men, I am speaking in generality, but I'm not saying all. I would never say all to anything. I've never put anything in a monolith and say there's always applies to everybody everywhere, because there's no possible way to do that.
So we're saying,
but human beings do speak in heuristics. The explanation of my heuristic when I say all, right, and I didn't even say all, but when I say men, I'm not saying every man. I'm just saying men in general. So you would probably find this trait more common in men than not in men. Here, let me give you an example, okay? Men have balls. Now, that's not all men. There are some men who have no balls. You and I would agree that that is true. But when I say men have balls, is there any confusion about what I'm talking about?
No, because it's a biological fact. That's a biological fact, okay? Whereas the other is a subjective and arbitrary statement. And this is what I was trying to talk about yesterday. And sometimes, like, when I watch the Whatever podcast, it frustrates me because they just talk in such extreme terminologies. But again, I don't understand how saying men have balls is equal to men don't care whether or not a woman is unemployed or not. Because I would argue that most men eventually might not care once she's your wife, once you guys start having kids. Maybe you want a stay-at-home wife, and obviously if you're a stay-at-home mom, then you're unemployed, or at least you don't have a job that you're clocking in and clocking out of. Okay, but most men are not looking for homeless women. They're just not, again, prioritizing the career because a woman's income does not typically benefit a man. But most families and most family dynamics, women are working full-time or part-time. Most average families require 2 incomes. So to an extent, your career and your profession does matter.
Hold on. I can give a much
Well, I would like an answer to the question, though. Is anybody really confused about what I'm talking about when I say men have balls?
Sure, but I feel like you're breaking down way what we were talking about a long time ago to men have balls.
Yeah,
you don't
that's a
speak
heuristic.
for all men because men have balls.
Do I speak for all men when I say men have balls?
You said men don't give a shit. How does that
so
equate to
I'm
men
just
have
saying,
balls?
I'm saying in general, if you look
I
at
feel
what
like you're
men,
creating like a fallacy here.
What men report as being preferential. What's the fallacy?
Ooh, I have all my fallacies written down. We can look it up.
Tell me which
And
fallacy.
they literally,
Let's see.
like, she has an entire notebook
maybe
of all
it's
the type of
slippery
debate.
slope. So, like, if
No, that
A
wouldn't be the
happened-
slippery
Yes.
slope fallacy. What you would be looking for data like this, men don't give a shit about if women are working or not. You can look at the financial status of preferences that men are reporting in the financial brackets of what they prefer to date, and it turns out they don't really have a ton of preferences there, but women do. So we can kind of ascertain here in a general sense that men don't really care that much
I feel like
about
that's
women's financial.
kind of like a hasty generalization, no?
No, it's not a hasty generalization. No. Nope.
No? Okay.
That's a literal explanation for why it is I'm saying what I'm saying. It'd be the opposite of a hasty
But
generalization.
like A plus B doesn't equal C. Not to me, I don't think. Like that.
Well, no, this isn't well, first of all, this isn't A plus B equals C.
You're saying like the.
This I'm just telling you, all I'm doing is regurgitating data at you. That's it.
From Pew Research?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So you'd
cool.
find it from Pew Research, right?
Cool.
This particular set of data, you can find it in other places too. But it's not very controversial that men don't really date based around financial status of women, but that women do date based around financial status of men.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah.
Great. I'm just glad. Like I didn't know men give a shit. Like I just wanted to make sure that.
Yeah. But generally, they don't care that much. No.
Okay, so before I get into the next clip, I don't know. Again, I feel like the conversation becomes very confusing because they speak in such extremes. They say men don't care about what a woman's career is, and you get that because of the Pew Research that they share, say that men don't care about a woman's financial status. Finances and career pathway or profession does not always go hand in hand. You could be someone that is working for a corporation in the retail space and making $35,000 a year, and you could be someone in corporate making $200,000 a year. Same thing in academia. You could be a teacher teaching at a public school making $40,000 a year, or you can be teaching at a private institution where you're a tenured professor making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. So no, men don't necessarily care about the financial aspect, but in this argument alone, you saying that a woman that is a flight attendant being a red flag shows that you do care. Saying that men don't want to date women that are into OF or in the corn industry, which is completely fair, but that is still caring. You saying that you don't want to date nurses or travel nurses, that is fair, but that is caring. So anyways, I know I'm being a dead horse, so I have a couple more clips that is going to help me drive this further, because again, there's a difference between caring and prioritizing, because as I mentioned at the top of the video, there's levels to it. Okay, so let's check out the next one.
Matters about females, what they do for a job. Do you think guys consider that when they're dating someone?
They do consider it, but for not the reasons you think.
Okay.
They don't consider it for the same reasons women consider it.
Like, what's going through their minds with that?
Like we said, when a girl asks what does a guy do, she's like, how successful is he? What's his ability to provide for you? So guys generally don't look at women to provide. That's not why they care. But it'll be like, does she do OnlyFans? Is she a porn star? What does she do? Is what she does that provide risk to your relationship?
Right.
That's what guys care about. If this like, oh, she works at a charity, golden. Oh, she's a teacher, cool. She's an influencer, red flag.
Red flag?
Some guys, it's a red flag.
Okay,
yeah.
Tell me about that.
Well, because guys care about exposure to risk, and if she's an influencer, she's risking leaving him for someone else because she's meeting all these other desirable guys, attractive guys, whatever. So a lot of guys can be like, I don't want that. It's true.
So that's just another perspective.
I'm gonna burst your guys' bubble.
I don't know.
Guys, especially high value, like successful men, don't care what women do. Sorry to burst your bubble.
But you're asking a female,
okay,
so I'm telling you what.
As long as you're attractive,
yeah. Well, I don't play
have
that
a good
game.
attitude. What they say is
ambition?
Compliant ambition, sure.
So that's
they don't
interesting.
care.
That's interesting.
How many successful guys are dating models because they're hot? They're not. What's your job? I don't care what her
Yeah,
job
but Adam,
is.
I just have a question.
Yeah.
Do you want to be able to carry on an adult
So that's what I
conversation
was
with
getting
a
into
female?
too.
Because they're
Yeah.
not. If you haven't
She
lived
right.
in the world yet, you have to grow a
right.
little bit.
Yeah.
So
So
that's
what
why
you
I
do-
said
That-
25 and up.
I said sexual attraction.
Yep.
Now, yes,
you can have the same sexual attraction at 25 you had at
22-year-olds
22.
and I've dated 32-year-olds. I have way better conversations with 32-year-olds, no doubt.
All right.
But some hot ass 22-year-olds are running around there. So don't pretend that you're not like youth.
What I'm saying,
you know how
though-
they say that
Yeah.
youth is
May-
wasted on the young.
Yeah, but you
That's
can
part
get
of
you
it.
can
Maybe
get
as
that
a
same
father,
sexual
Yeah.
I
attraction
gotta be like
at 25.
25 and up, because as a dad, I can't think of my daughter in college and this girl in college. Maybe it's because I'm a dad of a daughter, right? So
So
it's
your
like,
daughter's young.
well, I know, but you still, anytime you look at a younger female as a father,
Yeah, 100%.
there's a reflection or an immediate thing that triggers your own daughter.
Cool.
Okay, so I just want to pause real quick because I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with who these people are, but this is actually a valuetainment podcast and is the SOS cast. Is Adam Sasnick, and he's Venezuelan and he's an entrepreneur. He's worth about $400 million. So much more than any guy on the Whatever podcast or Fresh and Fit or any of these other podcasts, right? Like, I understand these are just other podcast guys, but these are also entrepreneurs, the top 1% men. So I think it is very wise for us to just listen to what they have to say as far as their perspective, because you're going to be quite surprised, because he's going to start off by saying, like you already heard it, we don't give a crap about your career. We don't care. That's what Adam said, right? And in this conversation, not only are we talking about the career, but we're also talking about the age, because once again, on those Fresh and Fit and Whatever podcasts, they love talking about the youth. They love talking about the younger a woman is, the more attractive she is, because the more fertile she is, and try to draw all of these biological factors into play. But as you can already hear, Adam said, yes, I enjoy my conversations and the time spent with the 32-year-old much more. Youth is waste on the young. Because yes, the 22-year-old girl is hot. Guy in frame right now, he mentioned, and let me see, he's actually a super high value as well. I think he's worth over $75 million. He sold his company, but that's Nick Sarnacold. And anywho, as he mentioned, he's a father. He has daughters. So for him, he has a completely different perspective when he is viewing young women. And I mentioned to you guys in the past that I had a college professor that was my mentor. You know, he came from the corporate world, and he was in his late 50s, early 60s when we came into contact because he was my professor and so later on became my mentor. Okay. Anywho, long story short, he told me the same thing. We would talk about the business culture and building rapport and going out with clients and things of that nature. And he would tell me, yeah, there are often times that they would go into strip clubs or they would go to bars. And for him, he could never put himself into a position where he could actually participate because his daughter was about my age, you know? So to be in there in that type of environment, for him, he can't do it. Now, is that every man? No. There's differences. And that's why I say it's really important for us to talk about the nuances, right? Because again, a lot of times we'll say, oh, you're 30, you hit the wall, go get a dog and die alone. I know I'm guilty of saying those lines myself. You know, it's catchy. But yeah, being 31, 32, 33, if you're still attractive, you got a good head on your shoulders, you're respectable, you move with discretion, you are financially stable, you know, it's no biggie. But anyways, going off on a tangent, so getting back into the clip.
I don't have any daughters. However, what is a woman's prime of
30.
life? And then what is a man's prime of life?
Yeah,
30, 40.
Yeah, I think we kind of agreed on that, but you asked two questions at one time. So you're asked another question, and you were asking whether or not you were stating that men don't care what women do. Wealthy men don't care what women do career-wise, right?
Yes.
However, what you do, right, in terms of how you intellectualize life, oftentimes goes to a particular career path. So maybe he doesn't care about your earning potential and how much you financially bring to the table, but he does care about what you do, which is oftentimes for a woman segmented into how she gains money.
I actually
so they
fully
do,
agree with
they
you.
do. You understand?
Just
So
to
when
be
you
clear.
say that they don't care,
I'll say,
they do.
I stand corrected. How
Okay.
about that? They do care what you do, like career field. They don't care how much money you make.
Right.
Successful men.
And typically,
men
if
are living
you
paycheck to paycheck.
A man
want
that
a
is
girl
worth
that's gonna help.
a man that's worth over $400 million is telling you right now. Okay, they do care about what you do, but they do not care about the income potential that you have, because again, that monetary, that quantified value has no value to them. Your money is your money, ma'am. But again, we want a woman that has ambition. We want women that are financially stable. We want women that can provide what she wants for herself already and not just demanding of that of her next partner. Okay? So a lot of times, again, like these extreme manosphere guys that always talk about, oh, I don't care if she's just a barista. You know, like add a little bit more context in your conversation, because again, you guys have 8-hour streams. They were about to arrive at the conclusion, and we haven't even gotten 5 minutes into the clip if I haven't been cutting them off.
Yes, so typically what you do is going to have a role on the value that you pose to that man. Not so much that it's about your economics, but it's about what you contribute, especially if you're thinking about child rearing. So what you do oftentimes correlate with how much money you make. These are families. They work together, so they do care. They may not care what you're bringing to the table financially, but they care. They care.
Yeah, I've dated some deadbeat girls that I would not deal with.
So
but
we
they also
say
had
that.
some,
Yeah.
They had.
For me, it's ambition. But for me, it's ambition. It doesn't matter what the career path is, unless it's obviously something debaucherous or something like that. If you're fucking ambitious and you want to be the most ambitious nonprofit runner who's gonna be broke as fuck, I'm attracted to your passion, your purpose, and ambition.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's to stand corrected. You don't. You care what they do. You don't care how much income they make.
Yeah, that's
Correct.
what
That's what I meant. But they don't care what your profession is.
But they care what you do. So sometimes when that argument is kind of passed around, it makes it feel like someone who has wealth doesn't really care what you bring to the table. So
I totally agree with you.
So I just
and I'll choose my words more carefully next time. They do care what you do. We do care what you do. We don't care the income.
Well, I think Miami also shifts that to what you are saying. There's a lot of fucking just rich guys out here that want some broke, hot, sexy, I don't care if you speak English, bimbo on the arm candy. And
Miami,
actually, the dumber the better, so I can control everything. There's a lot of that in Miami.
I do not want a dumb girl.
Yeah.
I'm just like that to me is a cop out. Those guys are
weak.
Like those guys are weak minded. They don't want anyone to challenge them.
Yeah.
I would like to have normal conversations.
Yeah.
Enjoy humor, banter. That is very important to me.
Yeah.
You know, some guy tried to set me up with a lady recently, right? And she's a big time realtor in Miami. And I saw a picture. I'm like, yeah, I'm not that into. He's like, dude, she's massive. I'm like, I don't like.
Yeah.
She paying my rent? Like I don't pay. I guess she's a realtor.
So I
didn't care. I'm
She's selling my house.
Yeah. Oh, she's 37 years old. She's attractive. She's super successful. I go, I don't care how much money she makes because I know she's not paying my bills. She's 37, so she's probably on the wrong side of having kids. So if I met her today, I'm 41, she's 37, we're not having kids. Like, no, that's out. And I'm not that into her. So, and he's selling me. He's like, bro, what is wrong with you? And I'm like, what is wrong with you? Like, well, you're selling me something that I'm not interested in.
So now I understand why that when you share that, the space that you're sharing it from as it relates to, don't think that that is going to increase my attraction to you just because you can make money, because I can make my own money.
Yeah.
So women need to know that.
Well, the difference is men will have to share their money with the woman. Okay, I've had girlfriends, I've moved them in, I've plucked them out of wherever. You're living with me now, you're living in a high rise, you're living in a condo. You've done this, I've seen your condo. You know, do your job, you have 0 bills, here's a car, have a great life, have a great attitude. Okay, but a girl's not doing that to a guy.
Yeah.
No girls take, like, no successful guy's like, yeah, I met a girl, she's paying my rent now, and I'm just working from home. Like, it doesn't work. So that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I understand you.
The more successful a guy is, the less he cares what their career path is.
And I think that is a very important thing to add. And it's the fact that the more successful a guy is. Okay, so when you're just talking about an average guy, or you're talking about the average Joe and a guy who is just making $40,000, $50,000 a year. For him, maybe the perk of being able to travel because his wife or girlfriend is a flight attendant is something he's interested in, because he doesn't have the extra income and the extra funds to travel the world. Okay, because we're not all millionaires. We all don't make $50,000 a month on YouTube. Okay. And again, whenever we have these conversations, because it's so extreme, you're talking about the top percentile and you miss the entire population of just average people. Because like I said, like, I was going to share it, but I can see that the video is getting long, but I'll include it in the description box down below. But I did find a Reddit where people were talking about as far as their interests and level of interest in a woman's career. A lot of men were saying that, no, I don't care as far as how much she makes, but I care that she is enjoying what she does. I care that what she's doing is a positive thing. It would be super dope if she was in the STEM field, because I'm a nerdy guy. So anyways, I'll include that in the description box down below if you guys are interested in a quick read. But I found another clip on another dating show on The Cut. And as you guys can hear what his deal breaker is, and he's just an average Joe.
One of Adrian's deal breakers is someone who doesn't have a J-O-B.
Yeah, someone who doesn't have a job.
I don't have a job.
You don't have a job?
So anyways, I'm going to share the entire episode of The Cut down in the description box down below as well. If you guys care to check out that episode, you guys are going to hear. It's not like he's super poor. It's not like he's super rich. He's just an average guy. And he's just looking to find someone that is willing to be in a partnership with him. Everyone has a different idea of how relationships go nowadays. I think everyone is entitled to have their own preferences, but understand why you have these preferences. Understand how it may or may not limit you. Because like I said, I'm going to flash back to the girl in the beginning. I don't know how promiscuous she was. I don't know how high of a risk factor it is for her to be a flight attendant versus someone that is just a hot girl that is a bartender at your local bar. For some people, it doesn't matter if they have a remote job or a stationary corporate job. If they're attractive, there are going to be men that are going to be hitting on them. And for some people, it doesn't matter if you're a traveling nurse or a traveling flight attendant. I know plenty that have done both. And for them, it's just about seeing the world and experiencing it all. But anyways, I've enjoyed this conversation of being a dead horse, but you guys do let me know your perspective and the comment section down below. Please do like and subscribe if you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll talk again with you guys next time. Bye.